Randy asked me if I was going to get a bunch of, or put some statistics and things of that nature, calls and this stuff. And honestly, here's my response to you. I'm not going to do it unless y'all ask me for it, and then we'll go get it. Because in the past, I've come in and presented that stuff, those type stats, and it's not needed. I do have some stats I want to throw out real quick. I'm 1 detective short, I'm 4 deputies short out of 20. I'm 2 school resource officers short out of 7. I'm 2 court services deputies short out of 9. I'm 6 detention officers short out of 20, and 3 dispatchers short out of 12. 12. Yes, out of 12.
But you're saving us money.
Not really. In 2021 to date, we got 580 new, not people moved into the county, 580 new addresses issued on new constructions. That's just new constructions. Has nothing to do with the real estate market and all of this. We got the people that are moving here are expecting more and more and more. They're expecting the service from us like they got where they came from. The public support is here for law enforcement, which makes it so much nicer to work here than in other places. Our problem is we can't get applicants because we're competing with people who are advertising on social media that they're starting deputies at $4.65 an hour more than we are. They're starting detention officers at $3.57 more than we are. And dispatchers accordingly about $4.09 an hour more than we are. That's Dawson County. That's the closest, but it's just you add 10 minutes to that drive, and there's a boatload that we just didn't gather their starting pay. That's what we're competing with. That's what the proposed budget that I brought to y'all, that's what that reflects, is to an attempt to get our manpower to where it needs to be with what we're already allotted budget, in the budget wise for manpower, because I need to be in here today asking for more people than what we're budgeted for. But that's a ludicrous operation if I can't fill the positions I have. And that's my sales pitch. I think for the most part, most of this, the rest of my budget is pretty much the same. It's all in salaries.
Fingerprinting, what's the deal there?
Fingerprinting is that's all right. Gun permits. It's gun permits. We have to pay the GBI, so therefore we charge. It's kind of a wash. We only make $5 off a set of fingerprints. I think we make $5, but we have to charge about $47 roughly.
So where's that revenue, Sandy? $5.
Fingerprinting revenue,
It's insured.
yeah, it would be what they collect and then turn around and pay out to us. It would be in their sheriff's budget revenue. It's not broken out specifically, fingerprinting. It would be included in that
Okay.
150,000.
Gotcha. And the contract services, you told me before, what's that, 60,000?
Well, that's gonna be on our, record software, maintenance fees and
Copier list.
copiers and, yeah, all that.
I may have found a typo on my part. Y'all wouldn't be asking $5,000 for advertising, would you? For any reason? I put 5,000, but I think in this instance, I actually added a zero. Yeah, I found one of those zeros that I missed on somebody else. Because for 2021, we had 500 budgeted. And I think I just typed it in incorrectly. No, you've got 5,000, no,
That's something else.
it's gonna be 523300.
500.
Okay, that was my problem. I actually picked up an extra number there instead of looking one.
Makes you wonder for those other couple over there.
Oh, seriously.
Sandy, on the CapEx expenses on the cards, did you have, y'all get that worked out?
I have not even talked to Adam, honestly. I'm gonna try
But
to,
you got a number from Ken?
I didn't get a number from
Oh,
Kim.
okay.
And it's probably because she didn't. I'm guessing by the time, I'm just spitballing and I'll confirm this. I'll do some research and confirm it. But by the time are these for K-9?
No.
Are they all?
They're 2 Tahoes to replace, admin and 1 training, and then there's Explorers.
Now, the Tahoes don't have to be equipped like the patrol cars though, correct?
No,
Okay.
and then we had in the, we were asking for 10 vehicles, but we took 2 out because we were asking for 2 unmarked Ford Explorers for the jail out of the recovery money.
Yeah.
Because we could just pay for them and not have to finance out of that. That was on the list of what.
So this would include 8 vehicles, 2 Tahoes, 6 Explorers, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And when you say out of the recovery, you're talking about the money that we're due to receive in 26.
We can do that. If you're out now, we can do it then.
I don't know if we're out now or not, but, 2, there was 2 Explorers. 2 Explorers with equipment, probably will be pushing $80,000 or $90,000.
Yes.
And I don't know if we got that myself.
The only thing they won't have is we won't budget markings for them. I think that's about $300 or something a piece. And we won't budget for computers for those cars because they won't be driven on a daily basis. They'll be used for
So you're here at 1,800.
transporting sick inmates and high-risk inmates and those sort of things. But they will have all the other camera and all the others.
So for the purposes, just so I'm clear on my notes here, for the purposes of the 2022 capital, just plain capital budget, 2 Tahoes, 6 Explorers.
Yeah, and what I would do on those is just take what we got last year, because we'll buy the same thing, and do 5 to 10% for inflation costs on equipment.
I think the Explorers, by the time they're equipped, we're probably looking at 45-ish, is what I'm thinking,
Well, I
each.
doubt it, yeah.
Mhm. By the time you put the equipment in there. Are any of these K-9? No.
Oh,
One,
or 1, yeah, I thought, yeah.
So one of the Explorers is K-9.
Yeah, so whatever we paid for the cars this year, just do an inflation on them, and that's what somewhere around the price will be.
I think the Tahoes.
And the Tahoe's the same way.
They're about 38 or 40, and then they don't have to have a whole lot of equipment, but probably,
we're showing 50 on here with the equipment.
I think that's probably a little high, but I'll double
I
check.
don't know, 2 Explorers with equipment, it's probably 90 or 95.
I would-
90.
Well, the radio's what, $3,500?
No, it's 5,000.
5,000?
or right at 5,000.
And I think the computers are about 1,700 or 1,800 apiece, aren't they?
Computers are about
Each?
20.
Yeah. I'll do it.
With the mouse and all that.
I'll research and come up with some numbers on those.
But if we need to, we can buy those out of next year.
We'll look at that, I just wanted to, just in case, make sure that that was an option.
Okay. Sheriff, I'm sorry I interrupted.
No. That's fine, for clarification.
Whatever use of salaries now is an ongoing situation, of course.
You know, it's, I've never seen a time like we've seen in really the last 24 months, but in the last 12 months specifically, but, law enforcement agencies are going up on salaries because we're all fighting the same battle. Everyone's fighting the battle of trying to attract people to this profession. Nobody wants to, I don't say nobody wants to do it. People don't want to do it the way they used to. And, you know, we used to have to compete with Fannin, and we typically stay above Fannin. Pickens, and us and Pickens is like this. And then we started losing folks to the further, people got willing to drive further away, Cherokee, Forsyth. Dawson County blew us out of the water this year with that. I've got employees, you know, looking at that direction, and I'm doing everything I can do to hold on to it. Even the cities, I don't know exactly, I didn't call Chief Lacey, but even the cities have increased. There's reality and there's probably folklore out there, but I heard 37%. I doubt they went up 37%, but you know, even the city of LJ has surpassed us on our starting pay.
Well, we're looking at 39% here, so they're not going up 37.
It's not it's a little bit of misleading, and I'll tell you why that is. Looking at the information that y'all have with the salaries, it doesn't include our open positions. So we have the numbers that if all of our positions were filled, that's what I was looking for a minute ago, CapEx, y'all was talking about CapEx, and I was the only one in the room in the dark. We've got information with our vacancies listed, and it lowers that number, but it's still pretty significant. I do understand that.
I don't understand how it lowers the number.
Lowers the percentage increase that I'm asking for. It's just lowers the percentage increase that I'm requesting on salary. It doesn't lower the overall increase percentage, but
So that's fine.
yeah.
I mean, it's 39%. How did you get away from that?
I think the big question on that, the $3,059,000 includes a bunch of vacant positions, right?
Sure.
The 200,000 from last year. Was that the same number of positions though? Then it would be 39%, right? That wouldn't.
No.
Okay.
No. That 2,200,000 was the number based, and here's how these numbers, here's how they come about. But it would not, that 2,200,000 would not represent the number of positions that we have been operating with, and we haven't increased positions to speak of more than one or two here and there in years. That number is going based on what we spent in the previous 12 months. When we increase, percentage for raises or whatever. But the actual reality is that number does not take into consideration that if we were full, we would have been over budget on that number. You see what I'm saying? Y'all got, like we've got 20 positions for patrol deputies. And we're,
Let me make sure I understand this before it goes, because it does that. What you're saying is the 2,200,000 is the actual amount spent on the number of people you could get, not necessarily the number of people you should have had.
that's right.
Okay.
Correct, is that a correct statement? Yes.
Okay.
So you,
So then okay.
then you couldn't have hired any more based on that. Without being beyond your budget.
True, but
So this is not just raises, this is actually additional people too. Yeah.
that's correct.
Now I'm confused.
What is the $3,059,000?
Would that $3 million have you fully staffed?
Fully staffed,
And the
Whereas-
2.2 didn't have you fully staffed.
that's right.
That's what I'm understanding.
Well, then, let's adjust the 3 million down to not fully staffed.
But we need to be fully staffed, is the problem.
I assume you needed to be last year though, in the budget and everything.
The only way you're gonna get an accurate percentage figure would be if you adjust one up or one down and then take the percentage. But that's, what Stacy's saying though, is that doesn't give him the flexibility to continue to try to hire more people.
See, the problem is working as short-staffed as we're working, our call volume is killing the deputies that are there working. They're overworked. They need a break. They need to be able, when they've got a day off, they need to be off instead of working. And that's what's happening, is we can't even get anybody to fill good paying side jobs that people call and say, I need a deputy all weekend at the Apple House. Nobody wants to work it because they know that they just worked the last 12 out of 14 days because they've worked their shift and somebody else's because we're working short.
I don't care how you say it to the public, it's a 39% increase in the budget. It has to be paid out of taxes. I don't know how to do.
I would agree that it's a 39% increase over last year.
Over the budget, last year's budget.
Over last year's, well,
Budget,
is this what was budgeted last year or what was actually spent though?
not the 2.2 budget.
But it was, looks like about what was spent. If we double,
Yeah.
The actual for 2020 was $2,372,000. We amended the budget for 2021 was $2.1 million.
But in 20, we spent almost 2.4.
And I think that's probably the part about not being able to find anybody to work and spend that additional money.
Let's come at it another
We
way.
don't have a clue,
If we had a list of positions, the people in positions, what kind of raise are you talking about giving those people, percentage wise?
I can answer that question. This would, all right, so, and in saying this now, it's not gonna affect it much. I'm not, what I'm about to say doesn't mean that I need less money than what I'm asking for. Because I'm not talking about giving admin positions, my admin positions are, they're paid well,
I just love the way you preface that.
comparatively speaking. I'm talking about deputy sheriffs, certified deputy sheriffs, certified detention officers, and certified dispatchers. Deputy sheriffs, 18%, which will take them starting pay from $17 an hour to $20 an hour. Still $1.65 an hour less than Dawson County. And detention officers, 18% going from $15 an hour to 17, if I can read my handwriting, $17.70, no, $17 an hour basically. You know, I'm asking to be able to raise the pay. I'm not asking to be able to get up to exactly what Dawson's paying, because honestly, it's hard to come in here and ask for more money than I'm asking for, because I know that's a lot. If we can close the gap, it'll help me. It'll help me retain what I got and attract some, because there's a lot of folks that, if they'd rather work here than drive some to Dawson County or to go to Metro. Nobody really wants to work at Metro either.
and that's something, you know, it's important to have these sessions and find out why you need what you're asking for. But until we can find out what everybody else is asking for, and more importantly, what the revenue is going to look like, I don't have a clue how it's going to turn out, but it's important to understand the reason for the figures there, which is what you get from
I mean, I could have come in here with a stack of statistics and reports that y'all are, I'm certain are not interested in hearing. It's been pretty basic what I've said, but it's just a bare bones fact. My folks that are contemplating, and they've not come in and sat down and talked to me and said, Sheriff, I'm thinking about going somewhere else, but we do get feedback and scuttlebutt from people that talk around, you know, around the squadron, and they're wore out, you know, and they're having to work all the time. They're not getting, they're having to work their shift and others, because we can't hire folks to be fully staffed. And then the money's a second thing.
Do you think at these revised rates that they would fix the problem and you'd be able to hire people?
Do I think it's gonna be an immediate, just, oh, well, life's great fix? No, I think it's gonna help. It's gonna help the problem.
And we've got, the sheriff's right, we have to get those positions filled, because he and I discussed it in the command staff meeting many times, that, because we listen to the radio, we know how it's going out there. And we would be in here probably asking for about, if we were full, we'd be asking for 8 more patrol deputies right now, to at least have 6, 7 a shift, because they need 7 a shift.
I can say this, usually in this sheriff's office, usually when you hit the rank, rise to the rank of lieutenant, usually, your days of answering calls and is over. You're more of an admin person. You're doing for the most part, office duty. If it weren't for our lieutenants and captains and majors, we wouldn't have survived as long as we have. They have been working shifts, answering calls, to try to help out. I've answered calls. I'm talking about the most mundane. Unfortunately, it's a lot of the calls we get is ridiculousness, but we gotta answer them. I mean, if we don't, and then this neighbor dispute over a mailbox turns into a killing, and they called and we didn't go, then, you know. But I've answered ridiculous, mundane type calls just to keep deputies from having to go, so they can take a break. But here's the numbers, and of course I filled in September and October. We've got 580 new construction. This is from addressing. 580 new constructions. That doesn't represent all the new the folks that's coming here and buying the real estate that's on the market already. And more 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 expected. And we gotta be able to keep up.
The unfortunate part of that is that, given the taxpayers' Bill of Rights legislation, we don't get a whole lot of tax revenue from all those new constructions. We have to cut the military back where we get roughly the same thing this year that we got last year. So, you know, it just keeps building and we keep getting basically the same thing. That's untenable for the long term.
I couldn't run the sheriff's department if I wanted to, so I'm not trying to run the department. What if you cannibalize some of those positions to give you some increased money?
What if you like Hubert?
Cannibalize them, get rid of them. Let's say you take two positions, okay, I'm going to get rid of those and use that money to provide increases to other positions. Is that a possibility? It's something to think
It's
about.
really not. I mean,
But they're not filled, some are not filled now. So I'm just trying to think of different possibilities.
I understand what you're saying. I do understand what you're saying.
I don't have anything else.
I don't have any other questions.
There's something, not about this, I was actually going, while I had the captain's audit, I was gonna ask a question, I can't remember what it was.
Don't you take me now?
It happens.
Yeah, it seems it's happening more and more.
When it happens to me, they accuse me of being, having dementia.
All right. If y'all have anything comes up, obviously holler at me, you know, I'll do my best to answer.
Brought,
We still got the
Sheriff.
detention center.
let me ask one.
Yeah, we still got detention.
Oh.
Yeah, if you wanna.
I'm sorry, I thought it was about to leave. I was going to ask about the CapExes in 911. I brought Frank in here to talk about all the computers and the wizardry that goes on with that. So,
You are the wizard.
I don't know about that.
Yes. That's detention. The first two pages are sheriff.
What did I say?
Right here.
I got you.
Yeah,
I'm
right there.
I
And
got
then detention's next, and then 911 should be after that.
And all of these budgets on the general fund budget is kind of all the same spiel.
My figure was wrong. Yeah, I'm wrong. Couldn't imagine that.
I was about to say, I'm glad I'm not the only one that's been wrong today.
Was it in my favor or y'all?
That's the main question.
Depending on which side of the table you're sitting on.
Absolutely.
I have a question for you on this medical services thing. Several years ago, we signed up for some kind of thing through ACCG, where
Supposed
we would have to get it
catastrophic.
for the Medicaid,
We do the Medicaid.
Okay.
We don't have catastrophic insurance, but.
Medicaid rate of,
Medicaid rate.
it's actually state law now. They can only, if it's an emergency, we take them to the hospital. It's only if they go to the hospital.
Okay, so that's whether or not we signed up for it or not at this point.
Yeah, at this point, that's it. And the reason for the increase on that is they send a letter every year, we have to review the contract. They'll ask probably for 4 or 5% increase. The sheriff and I will negotiate it down to hopefully 2 or 3. So we may not need the whole 4 or 5, but if they hold to their guns, we would need it. So.
Decrease in contract services. I'm sure we're okay there.
Went from 35 to 20, 35,000 down to 20,000.
That's gonna be based on, if there's a decrease, it's gonna be based on the previous 12 months.
Yeah, as of June, y'all had only spent like $8,100 at a detention center.
And,
And then in 2021, you only spent 15,700, so that's probably.
right, that's what we were looking at.
Now, on the jail fund expenditures, like I told y'all, I'm still working on the revenues, but the jail fund revenues are coming in about 55 to 60,000 per year. And those are only used for detention center, things out of the detention center. So I'm gonna be budgeting the revenue on that jail fund, on the jail fund expenditures at 60,000, so I'm just gonna budget the expenditure at the same amount, just.
So one lawsuit.
We've already spent 80,000 this year through June 30.
They've had some big things going on at the detention center.
We've got bigger things.
Yeah.
We've got bigger things. Hopefully, the HVAC, are we going forward with that on the COVID money?
On the next year's COVID.
What we try to do is let that money build in that fund up to somewhere around 100,000,
Okay.
and then we spend it down to about 50, and then cut it off in case there is a major issue that happens, and it's basically like a contingency that we keep in there, in case something happens, catastrophic happens.
So this would be the same fund we used a couple years ago for new roof?
That's right. Yeah, there's 135,000.
I think we sealed showers.
We did, we spent 40-something thousand dollars this year sealing, completely resealing the showers, and then of course we had some air issue problems that we used expenditures for, and then we had the sewer muncher motor the brushes went out, and so that motor was $12,000. So, things like that can't be avoided that we have to repair.
Okay. So the answer to my question, what our jail fund expenditures would be on that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Major things that happen, we have another line item for smaller things, but these are for major issues that happen.
Okay.
And the money that comes in for that jail fund is in court fees and correct me if I'm
Oh,
wrong,
yeah.
it's court fees and
Yeah.
fines and,
Yeah.
you know, the,
We get 10% of fines and forfeitures from LOJ and East LOJ for repairs, as opposed to having a contract where they pay us for individual inmates. We come out much better this way, trust me.
Okay.
there's
I
probably.
think we work it up to 15%, maybe.
Sorry.
I think we might work it up to 15%.
Well, state law's 10, or we would if we could.
Can you get that state law changed here?
Yeah, if we can get that state law changed, we can do
Get
that.
that up to 15.
We're talking about cutting the loss and making that live.
Yeah.
Except it wouldn't, because we had to use it for property tax programs.
How's everything else?
We're at 911 now? Yes, sir. 911. Frank,
Sure.
I've done all the explaining I can do, maybe your turn. Maybe your turn now.
Dancing shoes on.
Yeah.
Change on the top line?
On revenue. I don't
No,
know.
no, on the
I
salary.
was talking to him about these
No. And
computer upgrades and stuff, that's
the
his,
reason
Yeah,
being,
I'm still working on the
I
rest
said
of it,
I've
so I know
already
y'all won't do anything.
said all I know about, and he just said his turn.
Actual
Are we
was
good in that
493,
Hmm?
was about
Are we good in
494 in
that area?
2020.
I think so, if we can get this, I've
2021 was
got, there's
budgeted
two
600.
things.
and
One of them.
And then
We should be
2022
able-
was
we should be
budgeted
able to-
600 again.
we should be able to do what we can do, or what we need to do
With
with the
The,
600.
at the 911 center, the 911 telephone company, which is called
Dues
Z.
and fees,
That's the
cost
manufacturer.
of the second
I
page.
guess I'll wait.
Yeah.
Supposed $500, we spent almost 9,000 through June 30.
Totally.
Let's see what we paid on dues and fees.
That was, okay, that was, the POAB buyback. We did the first year of that. Frank was the only one in the 911 budget that affected. We took his buyback out of dues and fees. That won't be next year. And also, I can have everybody bought back that's eligible to be bought back and complete that this year. And it's included in the budget. So that's why we took that line item back down. That was kind of a one-year
Gotcha.
shebang.
And for the rest of it, that we can finish this year, that was in the sheriff's budget?
Sheriff,
not the-
sheriff and, detention, sheriff and detention.
On the 911 communications, under phone system report, what was the outfit that you said?
All right, so Z-Tron is the manufacturer of phone, 911 phone system. And I don't know what happened with them. Either they were planning to do some type of an upgrade that they didn't tell, I didn't know about, and then suddenly about April of this year, I got handed a $50,000 bill for them to upgrade the equipment and the software in the 911 phone system. As you know, there's no actual phones anymore, it's all computerized. So the guy was like, you gotta get this done, or they're gonna stop support. I'm like, well, I mean, it's impossible. And so you brought it in here. So what that is they're going to replace the front room, the workstations will all get a new computer, and then in the back room where all the servers are for the phone system will all be replaced. We'll have new software. It's something Zetron did. They forced, I think Fannin just had to do it last year or earlier this year. There was another county that's close to us, Murray maybe. I think they had to do it too. We were able to, because I jumped up and down and yelled at the guy. I'm not known for doing that much, so he decided that he would help us to forestall this until the 2022 budget. But it's we got to do it or they won't stop supporting it.
This is not going to be the same as the 911 phone system, but it did remind me that I got a call from ETC the other day, saying the phone system we have here in the courthouse is so old that it's about to go out. So, they want me to talk about a new phone system for the courthouse. Haven't had that conversation with them yet, so I don't know. But just another fun fact.
Another fun fact, have they communicated with you at all about a backup option?
The phones?
No, for the case that Luigi and I used to carry back and forth?
Every year they have.
They had, I didn't know if Craig had communicated with me, I figured he maybe had talked to me.
Well, I don't know that he's communicated with me in terms of any conversations y'all had with him.
Lisa?
I've had a conversation about twice every year for the last 3 years with him about it. It never changes, and it's just outrageous. It's absolutely. It's that cloud-based, I can't think of the name of it now.
Barracuda.
It's not very good.
He had said that once, after they finished our email project, not long ago, he said the backup, gathering information on backup options was gonna be his next project for us, and I didn't know if he had talked to you or not. He hadn't said anything to me, so.
We had a conversation, and I don't know what time frame, whether this was the time frame you're talking about, or just what we had before that. There is it's like the gold star of cloud backups out there, and I cannot think of the name of it, but it is expensive. Anyway, regardless of what the name of the outfit was, it was more than we could even think about for the time being. So we'll have to keep carrying back and forth for a little while.
Well, according to Craig, there was no point in doing that because the backup is too big to even fit on those tapes anymore.
Well, then we need to replace that tape drive with a bigger capacity.
Something bigger? Okay.
Those are not DLT tapes, if I can remember my nomenclature from back from my Hubert time. We can get far greater capacity tape drives and tapes out there, but they're still tape.
Yeah.
Now here's my problem with that though. We have a backup server. And I thought our first line of defense for backup was that backup server. As I understand it, it comes online in the afternoon. Takes a backup of the standard server, and then goes offline. And he seemed to indicate that no, that's not anything that does any good. But I specifically remember buying a new. In fact, the first server that failed when I took office was the backup server. we're already making plans to
I'm really
replace it
doing
when
something.
that. So, and I've asked him about that, you know. I either don't understand anything of what I'm hearing, or I don't understand anything of what I'm hearing.
I certainly don't.
I do know that this offline backup really aggravates me. You know, that is the de facto standard. But it's on a per computer basis, and it's kind of like when we had to change our email to go offline, to go cloud email, we had to start paying $5 per month per user. So now instead
Don't be another
of
one of those
nothing per
deals.
year, we're paying like 10,000, 11,000 per year. It was one of those deals, and it just was
Kinetic,
not kinetic.
or Google,
Google
blend rate,
cloud backup.
that's what I've done, and it's.
Well, I have a question for y'all. Tell me about the new console.
New console?
That's a $224,000 item.
Get these guys out of here.
Capital.
Nothing gonna do with it.
Oh, yeah, Art.
There's three things floating around in my head. One of them, but I don't remember what it is.
Just 1 second.
Sure.
Maybe, I don't know, they, we're all on the same wave.
We don't have any of these scheduled right now for me. We don't have any of these meetings scheduled at this point for Wednesday.
Earlier or later.
Whatever your preference.
That's not the end. Or is it?
This is for patrol. That's Johnson Control. That's for the
Detention center.
detention center.
So I had one in here.
So,
Storage crack. Wow, cloud with a heavy. Storage crack. High drive.
Carbonite.
Carbonite, yep, I see that one.
that's the information stuff. This is the, until we find that. This is the software for the detention center for operating the doors. That's gonna be in the jail.
That computer upgrades,
thought I had it.
capital request.
It is, it's the, so it's a touch screen system. When they did the jail expansion several 10 years ago or better, they installed for the new park, touch screen system that will,
That's one of them.
yeah, okay, now I got you. At any rate, so you're looking at 2008 or 9, whenever they built that and installed it. So they're running Windows XP. One of them has died. We had 2 workstations, one in the tower and one in the booking area to operate those doors. And that's what that Johnson Control quote for $25 or so is the software upgrade as well as the 2 workstations. As you can imagine, the 2 workstations are inexpensive. It's the software and all of the finagling that they got to do with the software to make all that stuff work.
So if the other one dies, we just can't let any of them out.
That's it. Nobody gets out, nobody gets in, stop right where you're at.
And that's
They'll be on. keys. So the console. So also, when we built the courthouse, 2007, 8, 9,
2006.
so they installed these, our Motorola radio system down there. So there's 5 dispatch consoles, or dispatch workstations, whatever you want to call it. Each workstation has a computer that ties back into a stack in the back room. That's basically, it's a server, but it's for radios. It's a computer working on the radio. And in order to, it's old stuff. It was old stuff when they installed it, as far as the technology is concerned. So therefore, naturally, they're not making very many parts, if any, to support that stuff anymore. It's going to die. Again, computers running Windows XP because they've been there for all that amount of time. They didn't really have a software to upgrade to, through the years. So we just kind of been getting by. I think it would be a good time because I had a spare workstation computer, and I don't have a spare anymore because it died and I had to replace it. So this cost of $300.
Well, it's actually 224, we had 2 quotes, that's one, and I don't have the other one, the 224.
So
I assume this is the lower, the
The 224 is the lower, this one was 320.
yeah, I think it's different software or something. At any rate, whatever that quote is, will include the, I don't know how to explain this, radio console stack, they call it. It's just about this high. It's radios essentially stacked on top of each other that have interfaces that interface with desktop computers in the 911 center so that they can talk to fire, police, sheriff's office person.
will this have some redundancy built into it?
I think that it does. I'm not sure exactly how all that works because I haven't gotten in depth with that. But in the room also, there's also a mobile car radio mounted for each channel. So if something horrible were to happen, they potentially could go in that room and just start keying radios up in the back room there. Because we got antennas on the roof, And so they could, in an extreme emergency, go and hit that. There's no repeater here in this building. The repeaters are where they are. So it's just a radio, essentially. They're keying up and hit the repeater up.
Okay.
So that new console is the stack, it doesn't replace those,
It will replace the
and the stack,
yes, it will replace everything inside the 911 center that has to do with the radio, which is it's a computer. So you get a desktop, 5 desktop stations, and how many channels we got, we'll get that many circuit boards or computers, smart whatever, however they got it set up. I don't even know what the whole new stuff looks like.
Is that going to leave us with anything in either the detention center or 911 that's still working on Windows XP?
I don't think so. I think that will get everything out, because I had to go through this year and also replace our CAD workstations that were running Windows 7 because GCIC and the FBI get mad when you don't run whatever we have to go to Windows 10.
Well, and out of that too, this I do know, because I'm very attuned to this, $100 and something thousand is that for equipment, the rest of it's for the maintenance and software. Because with the equipment is the cheap part, the support, maintenance, and software is the high part. They got it.
that's good to know.
We'll leave y'all with, if we're done,
If y'all
pretty much. We'll quote, and I showed, I held this up showing you, this is actually, didn't print off very well, but I screenshot a Facebook post from Dawson County when they announced their raises. And it said starting hourly pay, and it listed out. And, here's what it says. And I'm not saying, by reading this, I'm not saying that this board does not support law enforcement. That's not at all, it at all, because I feel very supported by this board. But I don't think now's a bad time to be in law enforcement. It just is. But having said that, now is the time to do whatever we gotta do to help law enforcement, because the public here supports it. Dawson County Board of Commissioners supported an effort by Sheriff Johnson to fund raises for deputies, detention and communication officers. This is their marketing message. Join an agency where your elected officials have your back. Y'all have had our back, but I need you to have our back again. We gotta do something. I understand that it's taxes, it's tax money, but I think that overall, I think that law enforcement, public safety, the fire department's no different. I'm not in here arguing for their budget, but I do think public safety as a whole, now's the time to have it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great evening.
Thanks, y'all.